Good morning, Lomita ISD students. I am Susan Mitchell, the author of the Gus the Ghostface Dog book series, and today I'm going to read a story from the diary of Gus the Ghostface Dog. In the beginning, Ethan and his cousin Callum, whom everybody calls Cal, were best friends. They both loved spending their summer vacations at their grandparents' ranch in the Texas Hill Country. Grandpa would tell the boys about the history of the ranch and about the Indians that used to live there. When they went exploring, the boys found a lot of arrowheads and spearheads at different places on the ranch. Grandpa would take Ethan and Cal exploring when they were younger and teach them about the plants, trees, and animals found on the ranch. Now the boys were old enough to go exploring by themselves. Last summer, before Cal arrived, Ethan went exploring by himself. He stayed out longer than he intended, and it was getting dark before he could get back to the ranch house. Grandma and Grandpa's ranch house was built by his great-great-grandfather in the 1870s. It was native limestone walls, which are 2 feet thick. It was remodeled and added to by every generation since that lived there. Here's a picture of some arrowheads that Grandpa showed them. It is a spectacular house sitting on a hill with huge pecan trees all around it. There's a well not far from the house surrounded by rock walls, and you can dip out cool, clear water and drink. There's a large antique bell in the yard they used years ago to call everyone to supper or if there was an emergency. It's like going back in time. When Ethan was almost back to the ranch house, he saw something that made him stop still in his tracks. He saw some eyes looking at him in the dark, and it looked like a ghost. Ethan was afraid, but he kept going closer to it. Under a tree, he found a puppy that had a gray face with dark ears and a dark gray body. The puppy was scared and hungry. Ethan petted the puppy and talked to him. "You have a ghost face, boy, but you're not a ghost. I'll call you Gus, Gus the Ghost-Faced Dog." Ethan brought Gus into the ranch house, gave him some milk, and fed him. Everyone loved Gus. He was a blue heeler, which is a cow dog. They loved to herd cows and make them go where they're supposed to go. Grandpa said, "Gus will be a lot of help to me when he gets older. There are a lot of cows on the ranch, so Gus will be very happy here." That is how it began. By the next summer, when Ethan and Cal came to the ranch, Gus was a great ranch dog. He would round up the cows for Grandpa on command, find snakes, and keep everyone away from danger. Cal brought his dog Luke, who was a yellow Labrador retriever. The boys and their dogs would go swimming together in Lucy Creek. Gus and Luke loved jumping in the creek and fetching sticks or floating toys, which the boys threw for them. Luke was a huge dog. He weighed 100 pounds, but he could swim fast and keep going for a long time. Gus had fun too, but when Luke was in the water, he was in his element. Ethan and Cal and their dogs did everything together. The boys would help Grandpa work around the ranch every day. They would help feed the cows hay and range cubes, rake the old hay and manure out of the barn when it needed it, and sometimes pick up rocks and put them in the rock pile. There was always work to be done. After the boys did their chores, they could go swimming, fishing, or exploring. Some days they would cross the creek where it wasn't very deep by jumping from rock to rock. However, their favorite thing to do on the ranch was exploring. Late one night, Ethan and Cal asked their grandparents if they could do some exploring in the dark with their new powerful flashlights. "Y'all can take the dogs and go down to the barn and back, but don't stay gone too long. It's getting late," Grandpa replied. After the boys left the yard, they shined their flashlights out into the field and saw 3 pair of eyes shining back at them. It scared the boys at first, but they kept watching until they got close enough to see that it was just some deer in the field. The boys kept walking down to the barn, shining their flashlights on the ground all the way. When they were almost to the barn, they suddenly saw some tracks. A man had walked there not long ago. The tracks were in mud, and it had just rained about an hour ago, so the tracks had recently been made. Ethan and Cal were worried because no one was supposed to be out there. They turned off their flashlights, and when they reached the barn, they hid behind it to watch for the person who left the tracks. Then they saw a truck with a cattle trailer pull up by the barn. Someone was stealing Grandpa's cows. The boys were afraid that if they ran for help, the cattle thieves would catch them. Gus and Luke ran down to where the cows were being loaded onto the trailer and started barking. Gus started herding the cows away from the thieves, trying to save them. The cows were used to Gus herding them, so they started moving away from the trailer. While the men were trying to stop Gus and get the cows to go to the cattle trailer, Ethan and Cal started running back to the ranch house to get help. They met Grandpa before they got there. Grandpa had heard all the barking and was coming to see what was going on. The boys explained what they saw, and Grandpa called Sheriff Jones. The sheriff and his deputies were able to catch the cattle thieves before they could get away. The next day, Sheriff Jones told the boys and their grandparents that the cattle rustlers, which Ethan, Cal, and their dogs had helped to capture, had been stealing cattle from all the ranchers in the area. He said the boys were going to get a big reward from the Cattlemen's Association. Ethan and Cal already knew what they wanted to get with their reward money. They each put some money in their savings for college, and they each bought their own horse to keep at the ranch. "We owe it all to our dogs," the boys said. "Gus and Luke are heroes." One day, after all the excitement had died down from the capture of the cattle thieves and the boys had finished their chores, they were ready to go on another expedition. Grandma fixed the boys some sandwiches, snacks, and drinks so they could go on a long hike. Cal's dad, Dave, was going to take Luke to the vet for a checkup, so only Gus was going with the boys this time. After they had hiked a long way, the boys found some old rock corrals and fences. They looked really cool. Ethan and Cal sat on the rocks and ate their sandwiches and chips and drank their water and juice. They fed Gus the food Grandma sent for him. After they rested for a while, the boys realized that it was getting late and they were a long way from the ranch house. "Let's take a shortcut through the waterfall," Ethan suggested. "It should be dry now since it hasn't rained for a long time. If we climb down through the canyon, we can save time getting back." "Okay," Cal agreed. "We have a long way to go, and that will save us some time." The boys soon found the waterfall, and it was dry like they expected. The canyon below and the waterfall were filled with huge flat rocks that were easy to climb down. Gus didn't want the boys to climb down there. He barked at them and tried to herd them away from the waterfall. "We'll be okay, boy," Ethan assured Gus. "Don't worry, we'll watch for snakes." When they climbed down to the bottom of the canyon, the boys looked up and got the scare of their lives. They saw 5 coyotes underneath the rocks that jutted out above them. "What are we going to do?" Cal asked. "If we start running, the coyotes will chase us." Then the coyotes started climbing down toward them. Gus had been growling, and now he started barking at the coyotes. The coyotes started growling at Gus and the boys. "We're in big trouble," Ethan exclaimed as he started picking up rocks to throw. Gus stood in front of the boys, barking and growling. Cal started yelling and waving at the coyotes and picked up a handful of big rocks to throw at them. The boys were incredibly scared. The coyotes were getting ready to attack. Cal's dad was driving on the ranch road not far from the waterfall, and Luke was in the pickup with him. All of a sudden, Luke was barking and wanting out. Dave stopped and let Luke out. Luke started running toward the waterfall at full speed. Dave followed Luke in the pickup as far as he could drive, and then he got out and ran after him. Luke came running down by the waterfall, barking and chasing the coyotes. The coyotes took off running, and Gus followed Luke, chasing the coyotes until they were long gone. The boys were saved. Luke and Gus finally came running back to the boys and got a lot of hugs and pats from Ethan, Cal, and Dave. "Y'all are the best dogs in the world," the boys exclaimed, and Dave agreed. "Let's all ride back to the ranch house in the pickup," Dave said. "That scared the life out of me when I saw those coyotes ready to attack you two." Luke and Gus are heroes. Ethan and Cal both agreed. This was the best summer ever. Thank y'all for listening to the story, and there will be many more adventures to come. Thank you.